Is this a room full of people who love Digby or what?
Yes!
That's a great answer. My name is Susan Erickson, and I'm so honored to be opening this Digby tribute. Here we are in Albuquerque, New Mexico, right? In the basement. And many of us have been here before, many times. Writing, learning, teaching, performing, creating, lecturing, screaming, crying, tearing our hairs out, and or maybe just being delighted audience members, thanks to Digby Wolfe. But this is no ordinary Sunday matinee. We have called this Digby in the Round, Life, Love, and Laughter. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to feel some feelings. We're going to share some stories. We're going to shed some tears. And yeah, we're going to have some laughs. Because Digby would insist, right? This think of this. Grab a one-liner right now. You all saw the one-liner table, right? In case we need comic relief, it's there, right? If you just scream one-liner and to the table, we'll know what you mean. Okay. This is no ordinary Sunday matinee. This is Digby in the Round, Life, Love, and Laughter. We're going to feel all those things. Digby's going to insist on the laughter. And this afternoon is our gift to each other. It's our gift to Digby. It's the way of comforting a room full of broken hearts, and especially the heart of our devoted wife. Because, my dear Patricia, even though we all have felt Digby's affection, you, dear lady, are the love of his life. Digby wants us to be here for you, and we're going to be. Now, Garrison Keillor said that his memorial was going to be a lovely affair, and he was sad that he would miss it by just a few days. But we're here, Digby's here, and we're going to do our best today. We are going to create a very dazzling Digby collage. I mean, just try and define Digby, right? Right? Digby, right. So many things to so many people. I mean, a loving husband, a son, an uncle, a friend, a colleague, a neighbor, an inspirer, a writer, a performer, an Emmy winner, adventurer, a comedian. Digby understood the need for comic relief during difficult times. What did he tell Patricia? He wanted engraved on his headstone, "I told you I was sick." A few weeks before Digby died, and they were dealing with a whole host of very complicated medical issues. And Patricia said to Digby, "Do you have any questions?" And Digby replied, "Do you have any answers?" But lest we think Digby is the only witty member of this dynamic duo, I have to share something. The day Digby died, my daughter Molly and I were supposed to go and visit him, and she was going to give him a haircut. A real act of love. And Patricia called me that morning, in a very sorrowful voice, said that he was unconscious and that the end was near. And she then said tearfully, "He's just going to have to die with bad hair." Many of us here have been lucky enough to cut our comedy teeth with Digby Wolfe. And it wasn't easy, right? A lot of tough love going around then, and I'm sure we'll hear about some of that. But he definitely helped crack the code for us. He taught us to write from our guts, to write from, well, from everywhere, right? He taught us that it didn't matter if it was tragedy or satire, or slapstick, Hamlet or Herman Cain. He taught us to dig deep and find our very interesting characters with fabulous flaws who got themselves into real pickles. And he showed us that if we played our cards right, a life of writing and creating and performing could be therapy with residuals. Yeah, right. He was dynamic, charismatic, he was generous and fun and funny and fascinating and wise and stubborn and handsome and dashing. Did he know he was a hottie? Yeah. And out of our entire world, he ended up here. Now, how did we get so lucky to get into Digby's orbit and to get here? Well, Jim Linnell, I think we have had something to do with that. And Jim, I really want to thank you. Okay, I want to thank you for bringing Digby here. And Jim, I have a question for you. Okay, if Digby was so special, how come he was paid so poorly? And listen.
Because we're all corporate raiders, that's why.
Well, you know, y'all obviously didn't pay him enough because, as we all know, he could only afford one outfit.
One pair of shoes.
On what they paid him here.
He couldn't even afford to get a haircut.
But we all know Digby was very accessible, but he could also be very mysterious and enigmatic. I mean, I used to wonder, where the hell did he go when he left this building? All right? Did he really have a home and a member number at the food co-op as he claimed? Or did he walk out onto the loading dock and whoosh, transform into a magical silver-winged owl with a scarf hovering around, the John Wayne room at the frontier, maybe there. Or maybe he perched on a wire circling around us. And, you know, it's really hard for an owl to perch on a wire when he's wearing those little tiny white tennis shoes. In closing, I just want to say, I want to believe that Digby didn't just die from cancer right before his 83rd birthday. I want to say that Digby died because he lived. He so truly lived. He used up every single drop of life force he had, right? Right? Did you ever know him to waste a one? No. He was a full steam ahead, full spectrum life, and we're soaking in those rays today, I'd say. I said to Jim, I cannot imagine a world without Digby Wolfe. And Jim said, oh, but Susan, there are a whole lot of little Digbys running around. And yeah, I think a lot of you are here today. So let's let the stories begin, shall we? You think? Okay. Now I think, Jay, where are you? Okay. Jay, I'd like you to start. Speaking of Digby being a whole lot of different things, Digby's a friend.
And first of all, I just want to say that I'm surprised that there's so many people here. Because Digby was terrible to people. I actually moved here in 1990 with my wife and my kids when they were really small, and I was trying to write a book. And I was having a hard time with it, and one of my kids, Sam, was in 4th grade, and Digby not only taught college kids, but he also taught small kids. And Sam came home from school one day, and he pulled out of his backpack this wrinkled piece of paper, and he said, "Dad, look at this. These are the 10 most important things to know about writing." I said, "Well, this is great, So I said, "Where'd you get this?" He said, "Well, there's this guy named Digby Wolfe that came to my class." I said, "Digby Wolfe, like he's got to be old or he's got to be English, So I said, so I called him and I invited him over. This is about 1995, and we became really close friends. Sorry. And
One-liner.
it's okay. So anyways, those are great actually. But so anyways, we started to write a screenplay together, and when he left here, he would live at my house, or I would go up to Canada to live with him and Patricia. We went back and forth like that, and one day I said, Digby, like you're sort of half man and half boy, and it's like the boy sort of gets in the way sometimes, and I think you need to get some help for the boy. And so I said that, I've got a friend who's a really good shrink, and I think you ought to go see him. And so he said, okay, fine, that's cool. And I said, we're kind of stuck on this story, and maybe if you got some help, you get this thing unglued. And so I took him over to see my friend the shrink, and I dropped him off there. And they saw each other twice, and I called, and so Digby, so I asked Digby how it was going. He said, oh, it's going great. It's really going great. And so then I called the shrink and said, is it going okay? He said, well, he's actually helping me write my book on it. He was amazing that way. I mean, he could really see other people's demons, but you couldn't touch his. I mean, but he could see other people's, and he didn't use them against them. He just really helped to build the characters. Well, many years ago, I was making a film up in the Arctic about people that lived in extreme isolation, and these were people who had like amazing inner lives, And Digby was the first person in this world that I met that was like that. He would sit there with you, and he would just be gazing off, but he'd be developing this whole inner life, and. I think that's what I really miss the most about him. It's like the hours that I could spend with him. They were really incredible. And it's funny. It's like we didn't really talk about his past. All this stuff. I think really his happiest years were were his years here. I think that's really where he was the happiest. I think. The other stuff was amazing. That a guy that didn't go to college and was kicked out of high school, became a professor and wrote, laughing and all the things he did is extraordinary. And I just want to say one thing. He really, and this is maybe for Jim, I guess too. I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on you today. He would, if there was ever a way that this college could give him a diploma, he would love that. I think it's the one thing that he really missed in his life, that he never got a college diploma. So anyways, I really love you, Digby.
I'm Terry Davis, and I was a student with Digby for many years. And Digby taught me a lesson the very first time I met him. I was taking a playwriting class each semester in the department. Wasn't actually matriculating yet, wasn't admitting that I really wanted the degree. So I said, I'll just take one class a semester. Digby had just been hired here. And I asked him if he'd work with me one-on-one for a project I'd taken on for a friend. He said, sure, lad, what are you writing? And he signed the necessary forms. I said, I'm writing a piece for Mystery Cafe, but I don't know how to write a mystery. Isn't every play a mystery? Yes. He chuckled at my puzzled look and sent me on my way. So, as the semester progressed, I arrived at his office for the appointed hour, and finding him pecking away on his keyboard, I was very happy to find out that he actually used fewer fingers than the 4 that I used. So, Terrence, he'd sing out. Have a seat. He always called me Terrence. He asked me if that was my real name one time. I told him no. I also found out that he called everyone lad. I'm not sure how Elizabeth Otero took that, but anyway. Anyway, he finished his writing, and he turned to ask me, what have you got? We'd talk about what I was doing and where I got stuck. He'd send me away with titles of books and movies. Sometimes there were mysteries. He liked the Matthew Scudder detective novels by Lawrence Block. And I think that was a connection perhaps to his own admitted alcoholism. Or sometimes there were just movies he loved for their writing. Truly, Madly, Deeply was one of his first recommendations. I think he really loved the title, if nothing else. What he was trying to show me through all these examples is that you have to wade into the places you don't want to go, you want to avoid at all costs. Matthew Scudder was a recovering alcoholic working as a private eye in New York's Hell's Kitchen. So he ended up meeting people in bars where drinks were always a temptation. Nina, the heroine in Truly Madly Deeply, keens for her deceased husband, a man she clings to even after his death, pitting her love for him against her will to live. But Digby, I'd argue, I'm writing a comedy. Going to wrenching, emotional places isn't funny. Sure it is, lad. We laugh about the same things that make us cry. We make jokes about death, don't we? Maybe not right now. Well, maybe. I took a lot of classes from him over the years and learned a lot from him. He encouraged me to write, just write, not to do any editing along the way, not to correct myself along the way. You never get to the deepest, darkest places, those waters that you never want to tread if you don't. But he only, he encouraged me to do that because you lose sight of shore. You have to lose sight of shore. When I sit down at the keyboard, I can still be a little bit of a timid swimmer. But thanks to Digby, I know the world is not flat, and I will not fall off the edge. The monsters I will surely find out there will scare me, but as I get up close, I will see their pimples and I can laugh. Thank you, Digby, for the great lessons in writing and in life.
When you're coming down, we need that one-liner there.
Oh, a bus station is where a bus stops. A train station is where a train stops. On my desk, I have a workstation.
Hi everybody, I'm Kęstutis Nakas. It's so great to be here and see you all, old friends and new friends. I knew Digby, Brian and Jim, and I don't remember who else was on the search committee that brought Digby here.
It'd be me, Kęstutis.
Judy? Okay. This is such a male chauvinist. All right, I'm done. Thank you. Digby always used to ask, whose story is it and why should we care? Today, clearly, this is Digby's story. But today does not mark the end of that story. It will go on through time in the thoughts of those who loved him and in the words of all the writers he's influenced. We cared about him because first, he cared about us. We knew we were in the presence of greatness. How could one such as him choose to serve us, such as we were, giving us his time and attention and care? But he did. And because he loved, really loved, the artist in us, we could love and believe in the artist within ourselves. And we came to love Digby too. We're better off now, and the world is a better place because Digby was here. Here's a piece I wrote for Digby, the tribute to Digby, and if anybody's heard it, I'm sorry, I want to read it again. Here's to the profs that are different. What's funny about sitting in your pajamas trying to write about liberating Lithuania? It's so tiny and Russia's so big. How could you free it? Put some oars on it and row it to Sweden? That unblocked me. Out came One Lithuanian Guy, a piece I performed in Albuquerque, Los Angeles, and New York. It even got published. And you can have that Sweden joke. I gladly claimed it as mine, and it has never failed to get a laugh. Thanks, Digby. Today, whenever I'm blocked, I ask myself, what's funny about this? When my students are stuck, I ask them the same question. Something always comes. It's staggering to ponder how many people you've done this for. 5? 11? More? Not that you can't be a pain in the arse. Like the time we took that trip through the back roads of northern New Mexico. You just had to show off your four-wheel drive pickup and cowboyed it onto the spring snow, slushy overlook on top of Brazos Peak. Sure enough, you got stuck. And this was before cell phones. So who had to hitch that hike down to Tierra Amarilla and find a tow truck? Me, that's who! You wouldn't even thank the kindly German tourists who gave me a lift. Germans, let them rot in hell! Whatever else you've forgiven, you haven't forgotten the Blitz. How painful, how sad. What's funny about it? You'll tell us when the time is right. We drove across New Mexico and wondered at its beauty. You said someday you might just buy a little place somewhere here or over there or just north of here, a piece of New Mexico. But that could never be enough. Your heart already owned it all, and all of us. We came for enchantment and found it in your eyes. Here's to the profs that are different. I'll skip down here a little. You taught us that we could aspire to write, really write, but as soon as we were soaring on the wings you gave us, you told us we weren't quite ready yet. We had to do some rewrites, and then we had to rewrite more and more. What, again? Did you even read the last one? Make another pass at it. All right already, here it is. Please read it. Did you read it? I read it too. I think you may just need one more pass. Would you care for some crystallized ginger? A real writer will rewrite letters he has already sent. You are a pain, a nag, a nudge, and after knowing you, I can't write a thing unless I spill a little blood. Thanks, Digby.
Okay, I'm not gonna introduce myself yet, because I'm gonna first wear the hat of Faith Martin, who wrote to Patricia and asked that some words be read from her. So this is from Faith Martin. Although I am thousands of miles away from you all today, I want to say that I am definitely there in spirit, and I thank Patricia for reading my words of recognition of Digby, a dear friend for over 30-odd years. Through our friendship, I want to say how very much my life has been so enriched, and how he leaves a thumbprint on me now and into the future in all that I do and go on to do during my lifetime. Digby, or Diggers as we called him out there, was the most, in capitals, unique human being to grace our planet and the world of creative writing. Again in capitals, a giant among us. For here was a man who lived to write, right up until the last day or so when Patricia asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Writing." His joy, fulfillment, drive, and inspiration was ideas. Ideas that dived into the depths of stories about life, life experiences, every facet of humanity. He strived to understand and represent them in what he wrote. The pain, the humor, the irony, the forcefulness, the depth of experience, the search for greater truths, understanding, knowledge, heart, and love, and ultimately man's understanding and deep knowing of his spiritual center and heart. Digby loved to share his experiences, funny moments, insights, and reach, and humanity with his loved ones, his friends, people in chance meetings, and most of all, he loved to teach and spend time with his students. Many of you are here today, and I know that he unleashed in you the richness of the dream, to go deep and to value the dreams you have to write. I believe that nothing is created or destroyed, that we are transformed, that Digby lives on in all our hearts, and in all that we share and do through our writing, our creative inspirations, and our dreams. I believe also that we all wish to make a difference in life, to leave a mark, to touch someone, and that Digby did that in the highest of forms, the most prolific. Farewell to you, Diggers, but I do know that as you touched us deeply, your spirit lives on, your heart lives on, and that you are with us. God bless you and keep you faithful. And that was so beautifully written. I'm going to keep my remarks brief, but I'm Elsa Menendez, and I was briefly a student of Digby's. I only took one course from him, and he used to tell me that my writing is good, a little strange, but good. But mostly I knew him as a kind of assistant producer for 6 years in the Words of Fire Play Festival, and also as his house sitter, which I did for a couple of years when he would go to visit Patricia. And I want to make a dispute here. It looked like he only had one outfit, but I got to tell you, as his house sitter, the first time I house sat for Digby, he showed me around the apartment, which was very tidy, very nice, said hi to the cat, took me into the bedroom, said, here's my room, opened up the closet, and I kid you not, 12 sets of the same jeans hanging out, 12 of the exact same shirt. And after he left, I went into the drawers, 20 of the same sweater vest, and all the same t-shirts. I mean, it was his uniform, but he had many of them. Inside, scoops. For me, Digby, first of all, it's hard for me to distance myself from the idea of Digby and Jim as a kind of duo, because for those 6 years that I worked with the two of them as the Words of Fire assistant producer, it was a hilarious ride to stand between those two great, amazing people, and sometimes find the ways to make the peace happen. Not that there was ever any real, strife, but that there were these moments when I get yanked aside by Jim and say, okay, when Digby's gone, we'll figure this out. And then I get yanked aside by Digby, and he'd say, don't listen to Jim, we're going to do it. 6 years of that was quite a trip. But the thing that, for me, that I always think about when I think about Digby is a story he used to tell, which I will tell you now briefly, which of course we all knew that he grew up with his mom and his sisters. And he told a story often about a moment when he was a young boy, I think about 6 as I recall, and he was sitting on the steps just outside their flat, and his sisters were each putting on one of his shoes, and his mother was combing his hair, and he had some food in his hand, I believe, and so he was just being ministered to by these 3 women, and he said, I thought to myself, this is as it should be. And what that story exemplifies for me is Digby's remarkable touch with gleeful abundance. That whatever was going on, he could always reach out and connect to beauty, to laughter, and to fullness. And I saw that in everything that he did, in everything that he said, and also in the little things, like his homemade trail mix. I mean, did you guys ever have, and he used to have a big thing of it in his office, and it wasn't like peanuts and, raisins and M&Ms. Oh no, it was like pistachios and macadamia nuts and, exotic dried figs from Madagascar. It was just this remarkable example of the little ways that Digby rejoiced in abundance. Often when he went away and came back, and I would house it for him, he would bring me little gifts. And my favorite one was a poster that he brought back from Australia, which was a songline painting done by an Aboriginal artist. And it was called Genesis and Genius. And I still have it hanging in my home. And to me, it again exemplifies Digby. I think he was a genius, and I think he was one who was responsible for starting and sparking many remarkable journeys. So I'm very, very grateful to Digby for his constant reminder of abundance and glee. And I'm also very, very grateful to Patricia for her remarkable love and generosity, and for just being such a truly devoted comrade through the whole of his life that they had together. So thank you, Patricia, and thank you, Digby.
One-liner. I used to be indecisive. Now I'm not sure.
Charlotte. Hi, I'm David Jones, and I'm not going to reminisce. I had an office directly across the hall from Digby for 10 years, and so, all of you students who were spilling your guts in Digby's room, I heard all that. But B, we had way too much talk and way too many experiences to go into in any detail. Though I should tell you that he told me the funniest story I've ever heard. And I'm not going to tell it to you because it is, and some of you won't believe believe this of me, in very bad taste, and I wouldn't want to do that at this particular function. The bad taste element, I should tell you, however, did not have to do with sex. It had to do with urine. It was set in rural Australia in a rundown theater and involved roller skating. And not because the story in itself was necessarily the funniest story anybody would ever tell, but because of the way Digby told it in that particular moment, I was laughing until all the fluids in my body were coming out, and I may have laughed harder, but I can't remember. But I've been delegated to give you a little of Digby. This is a poem from Christmas. Some of us were lucky enough to be on his Christmas card list, and the Christmas card list always had a poem, and the poem was typically topical and frequently political, and you can imagine what kind of politics and how happy he was, particularly as the 2000s went along. During the Bush administration, things got a little nasty in there. But this is Susie and my favorite, I think, from the year 2000, from the millennium, and it's a good piece of Digby because it's about being human. It's about being a human being who is at the age of 71 and is experiencing this. This is not about what's wrong with George Bush. This is what it's like to be Digby Wolfe. It's called About Time. The future is here and the past's out of reach. Christmas at 71. Stories my mother once told me, I teach. Christmas at 71. Snow's on the way, so my bones seem to say. In Taos, it's already begun. These days my downhill's less steeply inclined. On finding my belly more amply defined, guess that's where God must have put my behind. Christmas at 71. Plenty of ham in my sandwich, but damn, the crisp has gone out of my pickle. I now understand why the wide Rio Grande can slow from a flow to a trickle. Early to bed, my libido is wed to reading what others have done. Jingle bells jingle their seasonal cheer, medleys of carols still garland the year. I hope you'll remember to use my good ear. Christmas at 71. Down at the laundromat washing my jeans. Christmas at 71. Coming full cycle, just like the machines. Christmas at 71. My battery's flat, but a jump'll fix that. Though wishing won't make it a pun. Sleep, once elective, today is required. And most nights, unless I'm divinely inspired, it takes longer to rest than it did to get tired. Christmas at 71. Off to the gym. Expectations are dim. Modest my manly ambitions. Hence, if you look in my little black book, it's mostly made up of physicians. Friends who don't falter or bailed at the altar, stuck by this son of a gun. There's a small bonus I'm bound to convey when memory wanders as memory may. Old friends are new friends I make every day. Christmas at 71. Who'd have imagined that time was so fleeting? Christmas at 71. Or love be the black ink on my balance sheet. Christmas at 71. My earlier hopes have matured into tropes that youth never dreamed to construe. No writing seems written as yet on the wall, or maybe it's just that the writing's too small. So tell Santa Claus what I want most of all. Christmas at 72.
Hi, I'm Christine Hansen, and I met Digby Wolfe very shortly after he was hired here at UNM back into the early to mid-90s. So this is another of his poems. I don't know if I'll be able, I'm still a little verklempt from the last poem, so I'm going to do my best to follow up on what David Jones was saying. This poem is also a Christmas poem. It's somewhat political, and it was written in Christmas of 2001. It's called Rubble. They stood at the edge of ground zero, as close as the tape had allowed, foreign and strange and suspicious, where once they'd been lost in the crowd. When they stared at the smoldering ruin, for darkness, a darker frontier, behind them, all over Manhattan, lights declared, Christmas is here. They cleared immigration and customs, been searched with a fine-tooth comb, packages opened and questions, gifts, they had told them, from home. No cab drivers stopped when they shouted, save one of a similar hue. They carefully asked where he came from. As carefully, Brooklyn and you. They knew as they stared at ground zero, all hope for survivors was gone. Shards of the past lay before them. Belfast, Sarajevo, Hebron. No point in apportioning blame. Those cities may differ in grandeur. In rubble, they all look the same. What led to this desperate moment? Who came to that fork in the road? What headlong pursuit of dominion? What debt to humanity owed? What new bottom line for the planet? Whose name on a Swiss bank account? What old bottom line long forgotten that Moses brought down from the mount? What would they build at ground zero? What monument spoke for us all? Said one, with these real estate prices, it won't be a Vietnam Wall. The group with due reverence pondered, a garden, a sanctum, a tower. Surely the world needed something where love was the agent of power. So where will it lead, asked the youngest. To more of the same, the reply. Perhaps not, the other insisted. The wise have a need to know why. The eldest said, shepherds are shepherds, but even a shepherd must sleep. Lambs may not always be trusted to those who are basically sheep. Quietly, they walked from ground zero. This journey they couldn't postpone. Death had been here for his harvest, but now there was life to be sown. Turning for one last reminder, the beacon of hope was alight. The three wise men left for the airport and boarded the Bethlehem flight.
Hi, my name is Pat Conley. I had the opportunity and great pleasure to study with Digby and work with him in the late 90s for, I guess, 4 years, till they kicked me out. I was involved with 2 of his Dionysus and the Round shows. I was his teaching assistant. I worked with him a couple summers, assisted with him in a comedy program. Working and studying with Digby meant learning to produce a show using 3x5 index cards on a big board to arrange and rearrange and fix the running order until Digby had it right. It meant having to have stacks of china plates all to be broken on stage over and over in his own hilarious sketch that he had written for TV and brought to UNM, and didn't matter. We broke, for those of us who were there, hundreds of plates, and it was hilarious. Brought the house down, and the rest of us had to clean up the plates. Digby wasn't worried about it. We packed the X with people, shoved into every nook and cranny. Working with Digby meant never suffering in silence. For years I carried the telephone number for the LA Tennis Club, where he spent his summers. Just having it, I don't know if I ever called him there, but just having it meant I knew he was there. It meant giving us permission to put our friends and families in our place, because according to Digby, either they wouldn't recognize themselves or they would be flattered. Didn't matter. Screw them, he said. It meant writing plays centered around the frontier. It meant giving us all A's and A pluses when we didn't deserve them, just to inspire us and encourage us. He taught us to follow our hearts, write what we know, and everything else, and everything else, including a course called History of Theater, was bullshit. He said, "Don't take it, Patricia, you don't need it." So I didn't. And somehow I graduated. It meant learning how to make a pitch when we got to LA, if we got to LA. He was such a great storyteller. His stories have become so ingrained in me. I hear his voice telling how he was kicked out of school as a young lad, with the headmaster telling him, "You have a brilliant career ahead of you, just not here." I remember the story that David remembered so well. I have vivid memories of some of his stand-up routines, one at a roller skating rink. I have vivid memories of his battles with the NBC censors, of him sneaking out the back door of some hotel in South Africa, and sneaking out of a bar in Texas. I learned to produce with both Digby and David. With David, I learned to get the show done, for the trains to run on time. And with Digby, he taught me how to crash them. Above all, he inspired. He just inspired. He did everything he could to get us to write. And he implored us all to be passionate, to tell the story we long to tell, and to sing the song we were born to sing. And that was something that he did over and over again, by example. Thank you.